Audio, there we go. Good evening, everyone. I am Bad-Tempered Badger, and I'm joined here by you.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, for those of you who are confused by my change of lab coat, I mean, normally I wear a different lab coat, but I decided to go a bit retro for this one with a classic Howie style, the one that I wore throughout my time in exile from my own creation. But that's not relevant. In any case, I am Director of Arketer Labs. Once present and presumably future.
Outstanding.
But it's even more arrogant than it is. I'm basically just a mascot / HR / founder. It's well, I'm content with it. That's the important thing.
It's a whole thing. It's a complicated and important title. So, I thought I'd ask you here, as a while ago the dear old SCP Foundation did a thing.
Oh, what now?
Have you heard of the new, at the time that I first thought it might be an idea to talk about this, fantabulous Anomaly Classification System, or ACS?
Look, they can't get the anomaly classification system they have to work sensibly. Why do they think they're going to do a better job of it if they complicate it further?
I don't know, but they've come up with a guide for it, which has it has some things. It has all kinds of what is this? Well, let's see if I can get my fabulous screen share to work, shall we? It should now appear in the stream.
I've just slightly broken one of my favorite goggles.
Oh dear. This is disastrous. Let's put the screen share up. There we go. Now, if I've cocked it up, somebody let me know.
Anomaly classification system, ACS guide. Right. What is ACS? ACS is a new classification system that adds further depth to the already existing object class system. Is not intended to replace the current object class system, is only meant to enhance it. They say enhance, I read that as complicate.
It does definitely seem to complicate it, yes. Let's go down a bit further. I have a database of all ACS articles. An auto-generated tool. And down a little bit further, we have what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to have the old containment class over here, which, for the example, is Euclid. Then a disruption class, and a risk class, and a handy diagram to show all of these together. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think I basically covered mine already. Suffice to say, they had a very simple system before that they couldn't follow as it was. Adding additional tiers just means more things to get wrong.
It does. It does.
As you surely are aware, I do a live stream where I read one of the SP files, or more, several, depending on length of any individual file.
I was at the last one, in fact. At least I think it was. I think it was the last one.
Well, if it's the last one, then
the previous one.
A bit misleading, but we shouldn't get into that. The last one was a very strange one, being on April 1st. I don't want to discuss it.
Yes.
Suffice to say, though, the Foundation really struggles with 3 classes as it is. They really struggle. Really struggle between Euclid, Safe, and Keter. So adding, say, I don't know,
I wonder what vlam means. Let's find out. Okay, what does
They need to also
vlam
ask
mean?
themselves how many people will give a crap.
Well, let's go down to the containment class bit here. Is it the containment class? No, it's the disruption class. Okay, disruption class. Disruption class refers to an anomaly's ability to disturb the status quo and/or break the veil. This is the secure part of the secure, contain, protect. When considering the disruption class of an object, ask yourself these questions. How swiftly will the influence of the anomaly spread? How far will it spread if left unchecked? And how easily can the Foundation neutralize its effects? This doesn't tell me what the different classes mean.
No, it does not.
There's risk class.
That is not very helpful.
Risk class refers to the severity of an anomaly's effects on an individual person and how easily one can recover from it. Okay, a secondary class as well. Oh well, this is optional. Okay. We know what clearance levels are. They've been doing those for ages. Secondary. Disruption class. What's VLAM? VLAM. The known or potential disruption would be localized to a small handful of people. The anomalous effects certainly do affect multiple people, but it would not extend very far, and the Foundation would find it relatively simple to neutralize its effects. So why do they make their whatever classes difficult to pronounce?
I am going to blame arrogance.
Well,
It's the fault of most human endeavor.
yeah, that's a good point. So we've got dark, we've got vlam, we've got Kennick.
There's a directed question in chat. What do I do to make it work? Well, I already set a price for that. I mean, someone has to do their research. And no, I cannot be swayed in the other context. Also, in all contexts, pants stay on.
I think it's probably for the best.
Yes, it is for the best.
So we have.
I mean, presumably pants come off, but that's going to spike the price so high it's even more absurd. I mean, that's retirement money. No one really has that from me.
Well, I suppose you'd have to retire after doing that, wouldn't you?
Yes, especially once the channel gets struck down.
So.
On that note, on my own channel, I'm not going to get anyone else's channel struck down for that money, even if it does otherwise meet the requirements.
That's appreciated. So
I'm very ethical. No matter what the Arketer Labs ethics committee says, they are. Look, some things should go out the window when some agency or another clones you and tries to use that clone for assorted devious purposes. I mean, that clone's life is well served to be, I don't know, re-educated?
Well, what are you going to do with wayward clones?
Wayward class? I'm sorry, I lost track. I glossed over. See, this is the problem they don't keep in mind. A lot of people who are there for a long time writing these things, and I applaud them all in general. Well, there's a point at which someone gets bored of their particular vocation to the point where they feel it needs to be made somehow more poignant or relevant to the shape of the world as a whole. And that's 9 times out of 10 where they go colossally fucking wrong. Strictly speaking, the Foundation, and the Wiki in particular, is serving its purpose just well in providing a compilation of really extraordinary, very inventive, highly creative stories in some cases. And if, big hypothetical if, say some super secret organization was involved in containing suspicious, dangerous things in this fashion, then the Wiki would actually serve one of the best places to keep a record where no one ever would take it seriously who doesn't have the authorization and the first-hand experience to know which are valid.
It's an interesting point. Now, one thing I will say on the positive note about the new ACS, not the old ACS, because there wasn't an old one. One thing I will say on the positive note is this. Where's my screen share gone? It looks nice.
Oh yes, it's a very nice picture. I like the fact they drew from certain established sources like chemical warnings, caustic, infectious, things like that. That much is good. That said, they can't sort out the containment class of things with just 3 designations as it is, and this is going to be that much more annoying. And furthermore, disruption class, risk class, Vlam means nothing to anyone reading it.
Well, let's have
This
a
is
look
just some classification for some zealot, some really big time fan, which I respect, don't get me wrong, to go through and then get really annoyed because it's misapplied in most cases.
and also mispronounced in the Volgan's videos.
Well, their quality in other regards far exceeds any sort of technical failures, I would say.
Yes, it does indeed.
But
how are you supposed to pronounce this? Is it Kennick? Keenick? It's a Q by itself. That's normally a K, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Kennick, but it depends. In which language are you pronouncing these letters? I mean, different languages pronounce letters different ways.
Then we have Eki, Ekhi, Ekhai. Amida, I think that's a Star Wars character.
Actually, I would be surprised if there isn't an Amida at least somewhere in the hypothetically defunct legends.
There's a Massamida. Oh, at least the risk classes are sensible. We've got notice, caution, warning, danger, and critical.
Oh. People are going to behave because they're not on one of my streams. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you.
Oh, here it is.
Striving to maintain.
Here we are.
Add-ons.
Add-ons and extras. There's even more. Look at this. Oh, I've zoomed in even further. Stop it.
Yeah, no. Look, I'm sure there are some very die-hard wiki grognards who will go to try to understand what every last one of these represents, but I do think they somewhat overstate the likelihood of the general public giving the slightest shit.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to classifying something as Chokma.
Gesundheit.
Or Gevura, or Necrospar. No, Necropsar. Oh, there's more.
You know, the curiously mixed in question mark on the Necropsar implies to me that not even they know what it's really about.
There's more. There's more.
Oh no.
Oh,
Ignosi, Usod,
nice.
Archon, Hera, Uncontained Keter, Apollyon, Asterisk 1, Apollyon, Asterisk 2, Ticonderoga Explained, Drigioni, Givura, Epoch, Safe, Decommissioned.
Decommissioned logo is kind of fun.
That's... Actually, I do like that. That much is good. The rest is perhaps a bit too esoteric to be much use.
Oh, there's more.
Oh no. These are differing takes.
Yeah, I think this might be, here are some potential logo ideas rather than here are the logos defined and classified.
The previous decommissioned had a much better logo, I feel. Yesod, Maxer, Ignosi.
So far, most of these don't tell me from either the name or the logo what they mean. Apart from Glorious.
I would say they have much more leverage with the logo than they do the label. The label needs to be something that the widest margin of people can understand cleanly.
So if you're sprinting through a darkened Foundation facility in the middle of a containment breach, you can look at the logo and go, ah yes, that's what's in there.
They should each be very distinct. Gladstone, really? So I guess that's strictly for UK-based SCPs.
Well, we do like to be separated.
Look, I have no objection to that. I think a certain amount of vision is only healthy, but I have to say it's also a bit arrogant. I mean, we don't get an American version of SCPs, do we? Don't all the flags get representation?
I don't know. I don't know.
What about Americans in particular?
This Uncontained is just wonderful.
So my bias lies there.
Oh, of course. There's
America.
What is this? What's this? A Ragnarok
It's
classification.
Denali's bison box. None of those look like bison. They are a terrible artist. That is not a box of bison at all.
There's not a single bison within that box. Indeed.
False advertising. For shame, it's Bendy. Or it's Nolly. Sorry, I misread that.
It's Denali.
I read it. It's Bendy, and I don't know why, but we all have to live with that now.
Yep, we will. Now we're at the bottom. Okay, I think that'll do for trying to decipher the logos. Now how do I switch it back to the normal view? I go, nope, that's the other thing. There we go. So
oh, good. Nice infinite tunnel from over there. That was beautiful. I approve. In any case, everyone can see what I was doing right now and what I was doing a few seconds ago. It's going to be great fun.
Right, we have
also you.
We have a question from the chat, which is, can the director give us detailed instructions on how to contain a badly behaved Fae?
If you're referring to Orla, no. Orla is entirely uncontained and is not our responsibility. Foundation wants to get on, that's fine. I make do with sprinkler system loaded with holy water, and of course an exotic location even they are not entirely certain about.
That's I find a sensible precautions there. So that's
I'm insanely paranoid.
Yeah, I can get on board with you. I can get on board with you. Except I can't because I don't know where your board is.
Indeed, it's all part of the approach, really.
So that's the anomaly classification system. Their new attempt to make a mess of the wiki.
I don't look before they even think to add to the wiki another tier of classifications. They need to make sure they have an understanding of the existing classifications and then apply them in a consistent fashion. Otherwise, they're just being really obnoxious.
Except, of course, in the case of SCPs where the normal classification being subverted is part of the point.
Well, yes, there's some...
Most of the ones I've seen that try and do that are silly, but a couple have been quite good.
Most of them are comedy options, and justly so. But some of them are quite good. I have to say, look, it's an inevitability. Hypothetically, maybe you're not, but probably not. There's a quasi-clandestine organization that might contain their SCPs or certain threats in this public fashion where leakages are not a concern because no one will take it seriously whatsoever, but also, inevitably, there are also a ton of people who have just really creative ideas for things that have shaped things that we've already seen and we don't even know to what degree, because of the nature of the wiki and the things that have come from it, the quality is going to vary wildly.
Yes, indeed.
Wildly,
yeah. Dave, what the fuck have you sent me? Okay, so what what else shall we discuss SCP related? I understand that you've been going through rather a lot of them in your.
Oh, but I have barely scratched the surface. That's one of the most amazing things about it all. Even if I don't like every particular SCP, and I don't, there are some I hate deeply. The sheer well of creativity on display, the sheer possibilities they present, are all absolutely invaluable.
Yep, they are absolutely fascinating as well, some of them. And some of them present windows into the insane minds of their writers.
Yes. Yes, they do. Yes. Oh boy, do they. Including the politically deranged, but we should get stuck. I'm okay with the insane. I would just prefer they kept things to what we might hope are realities we don't face on a day-to-day basis.
Now here's a little question for you. What, in your personal taste, your personal preferences, when it comes to an SCP article, what makes a good one for you?
I would say a good one is one that deals with something truly out of your experience, something out of your world, but something that you can see existing discreetly. I would say that with regards to the file itself, it should be relatively short. You should keep in mind that you don't necessarily have an audience that will sit through absolutely anything you vomit onto the screen. I believe the phrase brevity is the soul of wit really does apply here. Mind you, there are exceptions. The SCP file should be brief, but if you want to go on at length about something, the Foundation Wiki already has you covered in stories.
It does.
I, for one, have deeply enjoyed the saga of Joey Fucknuts.
I don't think I know that one.
Highly recommended. The author there is talented. I like some of the authors who've done really well. I've had some who have recognized works I've done on my streams who contact me to talk about what the work they've done. I haven't paid them as much attention as I should have because I kind of languished in my comment attentions for a while, and I'm working on that. Look, I'm a flawed man.
As are we all. Another one, Dave?
Well, in your case, you're a flawed badger, I suppose. But in case, yeah, I get the idea. Thank you for commiserations.
I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent for a minute and talk about my thoughts on what makes a good SCP for me. Well, it's not really a tangent because it's what I just asked you, isn't it? So, I'm on board with you, and I like the actual SCP part to be quite short. I like it to be. I like it to have clear. I like it to have understandable containment procedures. The ones that get too esoteric are kind of that they don't do it for me. I like to know what's going on. I like there to be some mystery and an avenue for things for future stories where the thing could escape containment, or it could or is currently uncontained or whatever. But I like the thing to have demonstrable, understandable effects, even if it isn't fully understood. And the other thing about it is I like there to be short. I like the article itself to be fairly short and concise, but detailed enough to be interesting. And then I like the contact reports and the exploration logs and those things, I like those to be more extensive. Those are the bits that really interest me.
I hear that. I would say, first off, I fully agree on the esoteric things. I have to say, one thing that really pisses me off in an SCP file is where the Foundation is somehow forced to undergo or do some really stupid, malevolent thing because they totally have to keep the thing contained. Why? Oh, shut up. They can't. They do. They have to. That
I don't
pokes
mind
me somewhere.
I don't mind them having to do something nefarious to contain a thing, but there have to be reasons that make sense.
Sinister, but more than once they've been feeding children SCPs because. Look, by the time the Foundation needs to feed a child to an SCP, that SCP is Keter and is best disposed of, and it becomes really hard to justify it when you know the Foundation can.
Yeah, I understand where you come from there. Because protect is in the name.
Very poorly tagged from Kaz. Yes, I suppose you can boil it even down to its base components, or chemically or otherwise, but whether or not you have the technology to actually do it is another matter entirely.
Mark Caesar says, you should write one yourself then. I've thought about it. I found that I think I would be much better at and have much more interest in writing exploration logs and contact reports and tales for existing ones than trying to come up with one myself. I have thought about doing that, but I haven't done it yet.
My best performing tweet of all time was a mock SCP summary of the cake knife, which turned everything it cut into cake.
Yes, with the everything is cake. And it's actually the knife.
Yep.
Fascinating.
I mean, it's sort of a jip to all the master cake makers who made all those cakes that look like absolutely everything. But, you know, it was a really fun thing to write, and I'm surprised. Have they made that in SCP yet? I haven't checked. They should. They should.
We should have to have a look at that in a minute. I should do the YouTube thing, shouldn't I? Everyone remember to like and subscribe.
Yes, indeed. Like, subscribe, share. Look, you can't rely upon YouTube to do it for you. The algorithm is actually designed at this point to screw over everyone not explicitly endorsed by the establishment. So,
the director's links are in the doobly-doo.
Most kind, yes. I could use the support. I learned recently, by the way, that every single live stream that goes out does not contribute to viewer hours or in any way whatsoever. I suppose because if it's live, they can't control it sufficiently.
Well, what are they expecting you to do then? Release carefully made and put together videos every minute?
But not too carefully, and you have to have exactly as many per week as they tolerate, because if it's too many, then you get flagged for spam, and of course, if it takes you longer than a week to do something, then you're going to get punished for that too, much to the pain of many of YouTube's incredibly talented animators.
I was about to say, no wonder they killed off the animations.
Yeah.
They're all back on new grounds now. I remember when Newgrounds was the shit. That was the big thing.
I would like to see a resurgence. I have to say the people who've been running it have, from all the reports I've heard, done a spectacular job of giving precisely the right amount of shit.
Excellent, because you can't give too much shit, otherwise you burn yourself out and then you don't do anything anymore. And you can't give too little because nobody shows up.
Well, that also, if you give too much shit, if you care too much, you're also very easily misled to giving a crap about a whole bunch of things that don't actually matter in the slightest goddamn bit. hypothetical.
Yeah, I have done that.
No, the elf is in. I'm sorry, Chat and Mort. That was Arcturus. But glad to see you've popped up.
Ooh, hello.
Chat and Mort. Greetings. If you weren't aware, Chat and Mort is an associate. You know.
I got the idea.
It's more for a hypothetical audience, but I think everyone in the audience already knows anyway. I've argued with half of them on Twitter as it is.
I'm enjoying this infinite tunnel we have here. This is we should
Yes.
classify this in the SCP system.
It's a time tunnel. I mean, strictly speaking, everything seen on the screen behind the screen is a thing that happened in the previous screen. It's like that mirror thing, and I always love that illusion.
What secondary class should we give this tunnel? Shall we give it Apollyon or Cernunnos?
Kronos.
Right. SCPs. What else should we? What should we bring up next?
Well, again, it's a very deep well. I've realized a long time ago that in the course of my live streams that there are far too many SCPs to go through, even if you have some insane but well-appreciated person constantly paying you to go from one to the other. It can go on for some time. There are 4 digital SCPs at present. I don't have pockets on the slab coat. Oh, sorry, I was a bit bothered. So I usually have pockets here, and I missed them.
Yep.
But it's so slimming, I don't mind. Why did I give up the Howie style? Oh, right, because it reminds me of my exile year.
I do have I have the finest of lab coats in the other room of my burrow. And when I say it's the finest of lab coats, I mean it's the one I could find for the least amount of pounds.
Look, I fully understand wrestling with a budget. I mean, Arketer Labs is basically self-sustaining for the most part. I'm granted a small, petty budget, but when I say small, I mean small.
Well, I forage for nuts and worms, so I understand the budget.
Yeah. Well, I might have been SOL if I hadn't been recruited for other projects.
By the way, people in the chat and your fine self-director and anyone who watches this later, please comment on the quality of the stream, because I have been experimenting with the settings earlier, and I've been trying to make it as fantabulous as possible. So if you have any thoughts on any of the quality things, let me know, because I want to know if I've made it worse or not.
From my perspective at least, I think you've made some colossal improvements.
Oh, good. Because last time, I remember the first time we tried to do this with this screen setup, it was about 2 frames a minute.
Oh, well then, even more than I remembered. And it's provided opportunities for weird things to happen, like this thing where we're, messing around with a Kronos tunnel in the process.
Apparently my fire is too loud. Let me move the thing away from the thing.
Well, to be fair, I'm not hearing the fire, but
no, that's
pretty nice. Pretty nice.
Let's do that one as well while we're at it. How's that? Right, SCPs. I'm sure that you are aware of one of my favourite ones, because it's the one that keeps appearing on my channel. That would be Lord Blackwood.
Oh yes, Lord Blackwood. That is a very fun one. I have to say that when it comes to favorite SCPs as a whole, I lean towards the object ones, the ones that could be very useful in the right hands, like say the Butler, which is associated with Lord Blackwood. But in the book that grants adventure dreams, I mean, that one's dear to me. I'm going to have a replica. It doesn't actually work, but I really appreciate the sentiment behind it.
The one where someone they went into it and then they came out and they didn't want to live in the real world anymore. That one.
Yes, but that's a flaw of the person, not the
mm.
SCP.
Yes, I listened to that one. I listened to that one as I was drifting off to sleep, and that may have been a mistake.
The researcher involved who lost their goddamn mind because they had a really nice dream is at fault there. The SCP was faultless, and the SCP would be very welcome here at Arketer Labs. I mean, I would surely get a lot more quality sleep.
That's a very good point. I'm not sure I should acknowledge this comment, but I'm going to anyway because I seem to be in a masochistic mood. Mr. Critical Cripple asks me, have I ever seen a mouse on a Sibian? No, I haven't, but I'm sure one's about to appear in my Twitter DMs. Oh, apparently my cigar is an SCP.
A mouse. Okay, this is very important. Are we talking mouse figurative, as in some sort of lunatic in a fursuit, which I don't begrudge them. Mind, if they want to do that, that's fine. That's on them. I fully support every adult's freedom to do whatever the hell they damn well like. But if it's objectively a mouse on a Sibian, there are certain size differences that may imply this is a sort of animal abuse / snuff film.
Oh, it's actually been in my Twitter DMs for 12 minutes now.
Oh. Well, I'm glad it's yours and not mine. No sympathies, of course. I just, I take my good news where I can get it.
Yes. Oh dear. You mentioned object SCPs. Other than the ones you've listed, what would you say your go-tos?
The Judgmental Turtle is one that I've been expecting a story based on for some time now. That one has profound applications because apparently Judgmental Turtle actually knows the correct answer. If you can work with that in a way that might wound your pride but still gives you the correct answer, the applications are profound.
That's interesting, yes. I suppose so. It's judgmental but correct. So you will find out things about yourself. You will find out things about yourself that you don't want to, but also useful information.
Look, possibly yes, but more importantly, it had the correct answer in just about any given scenario, including when there was no correct answer, in which case the little shit would just stay quiet. But in case, nevertheless, if you find a scenario where it will give you the correct answer, then you can apply it the next time around, and the applications, when it knows the correct answer, are profound. And if it doesn't know the correct answer, well, then you can judge it, I suppose.
So you could be an SCP, an experienced SCP operative in the middle of a difficult assignment. You find yourself trapped in a room with this turtle, and you say to the turtle, "Turtle, how the fuck do I get out of this room?" And the turtle looks at you and says something along the lines of, "The door behind you, you balding twat." Would that be about accurate?
Pretty much. It'll generally give you once you've chosen incorrectly, but if you're choosing incorrectly in a simulation, then it will still give you an answer that you can use in reality.
Interesting. I'm going to have to read this one.
It's very useful in potential practice. The one SCP that I'm coveting most right now is To the Cleverest, an SCP that is apparently presently in the possession of Dr. Bright, who I can't possibly challenge in any capacity. Just no way just no, that's not happening.
Well, you can
I
kill.
don't need that
You can kill Dr. Bright,
trouble.
but that's not
But if
that's not a permanent solution.
if I could get a good prank over on Dr. Bright, I would. I just can't, and I accept that. But to the cleverest, it's a lovely little statuette which, among other things, recognizes proper threats and deals with them appropriately. And I would happily have that in my workspace because, among other things, it keeps that workspace immaculate and organized.
Well, that's...
Just with the occasional dumped bucket of water over the head and so on. And anyone who's watched any of my streams in any persona knows that I can handle crap like that. No problem. Cleaning my workspace, however, terrifies the ever-living hell out of me.
I should dust my shelves, but I'm not going to dust my shelves, because in order to dust my shelves, I have to pick up the things from my shelves, and then I have to put them back again, and if they're not in the right place it bothers me, but I can't remember where the right place is.
I struggle with personal entropy. I will take a bucket of water over the head now and again, if to the cleverest handle the rest.
If it could dust my shelves for me, I will wear a raincoat.
I mean, my petty budget does not account for maid. It's a security risk.
It's very difficult to get a maid to come to a hole in the ground in the woods.
Yes. Look, even the foundation, the lab's generous, don't. It's all apparently budgeted out very thoroughly. There's no allowance for, say, even my personal spaces. They cover my food, my lodging, and there's the petty budget. It's just the tiny bitty, oh, it's so adorable, petty, tiny, small petty budget. Oh.
Mark Caesar says, regarding my shelf dusting issue, take a pic with your phone before picking them up, problem solved. Yeah, but what you fail to account for there is I'm not that clever.
Less nightmares of something coming to you at night. Director of Arketer? No, actually, I am generally devoid of nightmares, I'm pleased to say. I attribute this to a childhood in which whenever I had a nightmare, I got angry. So I'd pointedly go back to sleep and take control of the dream and equip myself with a flamethrower, bazooka, chainsaw, godlike powers, whatever's necessary to absolutely butcher the hell of whatever monster was hypothetically threatening me. The result is that I've had mostly incredibly boring dreams that revolve around personal embarrassment ever since, like, pants off in public and worse, that sort of thing. In fact, it's been so long for that when I finally had a general nightmare with a monster in a flesh horror environment, I made an entire art piece based on it. I found it sincerely nostalgic. I was quite appreciative. The coffee shop of Fleshy Zelga Both, I believe it was, the art piece that I made. It was on Twitter. The barista was terrifying. They had between 4 and 6 arms, and they were mostly faceless, but... Aww.
Outstanding.
It was so nostalgic.
I would like to see that if there is an opportunity for that at some point.
Oh, well, look, if you want the art piece, I still have it in several different versions. I'll happily share if you missed it on Twitter. It's been some time. Probably, it's fine.
Yeah, I miss a lot of things on Twitter, especially at the moment, because I've just put a load of filters on my Twitter to try to stop depressing myself every day.
Oh, yes, this is very important to everyone listening. This is basically a public service announcement. If you're on Twitter, control your exposure. Control how much time you spend on it. And if you find yourself getting depressed or terribly angry on Twitter, close it. Close it now.
We do have
Close it then, rather. Not until now. I mean, if you're watching this, you've already done a pretty good job. But just
Although you may have found the link to the stream on Twitter, in which case, good job on that. Good job for picking out the good thing out of the shit.
These things have to be measured.
Although, you might have taken the sensible choice and found the link on MySpace.
Well, yeah, as long as it's not Facebook, I suppose. Of course, all the really cool kids got the link from my personal Discord server.
A personal Discord server? Now we're being classy.
Very few people have access to it because I post the link very rarely, and most of the invitations from it come from people who provide the links who are already in there, good and bad. But it's worked out pretty well so far.
I do have a Discord, not a Discord server. I mean, just I'm on Discord, but I almost never look at it because it's awkward as fuck for me to log into it.
Oh, Chatmore has a good policy here. Just go on to post, check your friends, and then run away quickly. And I have to say, I really appreciate that because they've actually liked a lot of my posts, and I feel bad about that because I don't necessarily. I want to return the favor. I really like Chatmore. They're charming, good people, and excellent. I think they understand me better than most. That is
excellent. It is good to hear that they know you well and know your tastes.
Well, I also perhaps might be further compelled because I have an alternate persona as on side quest, Arcturus, Black Compass. I hate that guy. And of course, they are compelled to be a colossal asshole, including a racist who hates elves of all kind, which includes Chatmore's character, Lyra. And I feel a bit guilty about that, but he's supposed to be an asshole. They're all assholes. Except maybe Pentacast, who has yet to find his asshole. Wait, that sounds terrible.
Well, there is a suggestion for you in the chat.
Oh, yes?
Nerdy Rodent suggests ask the turtle about Dr. Bright.
I don't have access to the turtle either. If I did, what I would do.
Nerdy Rodent has also dusted me and put me in the wrong place. There was a thing that I was trying. There it is. How much less depressed will you be when you have dusted your shelves? Unfortunately, that doesn't work because I dust the shelves. I put everything back in the right place. I look at those freshly dusted shelves and go, next week they're going to be dusty again.
Entropy is the constant enemy for man and badger alike.
I need a different solution to my dusting woes.
Look, here's how this works. Entropy takes place constantly. It's a function of time. It's necessary. The only thing that effectively combats entropy is sentient life.
Lord Marshall Gex says canned air. I considered it. Unfortunately, some of the things on my on my shelves are too small and will also be blown away with the dust.
And I also really wants to know the taste of me, but while I suppose that's flattering, I'm afraid now and forevermore the flavor of me is forbidden to you. It's just not accessible. Not necessarily forbidden. No, I like my kidneys where they are.
Indeed. Oh, and Nerdy. No one had, but now you have. You have brought the results upon yourself. Nerdy's question was, has anyone mentioned Disney's Star Wars yet?
No, but... Oh, now I'm sad.
They're fucking it up.
Look, I have never been a hardcore anything except maybe Arketer Labs. And that's perfectly reasonable, I feel. I like Star Trek, not that much. I like Star Wars, not that much. But I have to say, from my perspective, what a wasted opportunity.
Oh, there was...
I mean, The Force Awakens, they had some potential there. It was there, you could feel it. It was low-key, it could have gone places. And we got to watch it die before our very hypothetical eyes.
It makes me sad.
I acutely sympathize. Look, there was potential there. They could have done this. It could have worked out very well because Star Wars has certain flaws that should be noted. Like the fact that the Force apparently hates Force users and wants them to die.
Oh, and that George Lucas can't write dialogue.
Well, that was self-evident, but from the established lore, the Force is sentient, and it really hates Force users from every example we have seen thus far. It doesn't pick sides. It doesn't like light side. It doesn't like dark side. It wants every Force user to just not.
It's an interesting...
And for evidence, I cite that it affects dark side users in making them batshit insane space wizards who murder themselves or each other with alarming regularity, and light side users become useless, apathetic space monks who constantly.
Oh, well, we're having a slight stream lag for a second there. Let's see if we're back.
Yeah, the recursive footage probably isn't helping that.
No, it's my end. It's my cocking internet.
Okay.
Right, I think we're back. Let's carry on.
Hopefully, I'm hoping that by virtue of the fact that this recursive effect is by virtue of my set, the weight of the processing is mostly on my end.
Yeah, it shouldn't be causing me any issues. I'm just showing what you were sending me.
Shouldn't. But it's really, it feels very uncertain whenever it's something recursive because it's weird. It's terribly, terribly weird.
So yeah, I see what you're saying about the old Force there. There was that lovely thought bomb that the Sith came up with that one time. That was a mess. They all killed themselves with it.
It's very complicated, but I think they had their best hope when they suggested blending the Sith and Jedi orders. Grey Jedi where it's at, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm with you on that. Although
yeah, Kaatan, there was so much to work with there, and they pissed it all away because they had to make that thing all the Jedi.
Yeah, they had Kyle and they had Qui-Gon there, just doing a much better job of it.
So
and then,
much potential pissed away.
But what I will say is, the books, Luke's Jedi Order in the books is much better. It's not perfect. It still makes some of the same mistakes as the old one, but it's better.
Agreed. Look, the moment you think binary, you're fucking up. Reality is far too complex for anything binary.
Only a Sith
and a
deals in
fictional
absolutes.
binary is just as prone to being fucked.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes, said Obi-Wan in an absolute statement.
Yeah, that was really ironic. Isn't ironic?
That's
Don't
what
you
you
think?
call ironic.
Yeah, which is just meta recursively ironic when I'm referencing a song that wasn't ironic, except for being ironic in its complete lack of irony.
You must do what you feel is right, of course, said Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Master and giver of bad advice. So, right. Before we move on from Star Wars, because otherwise I will talk about it all night. But before we move on, They could have done much better with it, with the Disney. My personal favourite thing in Star Wars is the Mandalorian culture as portrayed in the Republic Commando books and linked works. They've brought elements of that into the Mandalorian, but they haven't done it right.
Oh, no, they haven't. But they had so much potential there, too, and they should have capitalized on it instead of getting bogged down in political bullshit. Look, the Mandalorian series was overall really great. I loved it. Up until they started bringing Jedi into it, and then it just kind of sucked.
Right, here's my thoughts, just briefly on that. Spoiler alert for the next 5 minutes, let's say, just in case this goes on longer than intended. The last episode of The Mandalorian, if you haven't seen it yet and don't want to know what happens, shut your ears. Luke shows up.
Also, Weird Al is best.
Yeah, Luke shows up. And it's... I have strongly mixed feelings on this.
I ultimately approve, but it also at the same time makes the same case why Jedi should not have had any place in this series.
Once they had Jedi in there, the best thing that happened out of that was Luke showing up and not being a mopey old man, just gradually shitting himself to death on Fish Island. But
now we know that's how it ended.
No.
How
that's not how it
depressing.
ended. The books are how it ends. So, but that bit was a bit.
I get more with this.
That bit gave me
The
feels.
books are how it ended.
That bit gave me a lot of feels. However, it would have been much better if they didn't have all the Jedi stuff showing up and they just had the Mandalorian going around the galaxy doing Mandalorian things and showing you places that they haven't showed you before.
The Mandalorian was at its best when it was embracing its true nature as basically a space western. They recognized this. They knew this. It was in the very theme. When you look into westernized versions of the Mandalorian theme, they're not changing much at all. It is beautiful. And you like the Mandalorian, even though you can recognize he's full of shit, especially when he comes to the whole helmet thing. But when he breaks his vow, I mean, I have to say that personally pains me. But that's just probably because I'm a very weird person who has their own. But,
yeah, the helmet thing is not a thing. It's not a thing. Mandalorians are perfectly capable of taking off the helmets in any circumstance they like. They just don't usually, because one, it's practical in the battlefield to wear a helmet and not get shot in the head, and two, it really intimidates non-Mandalorians.
yes, there's an explanation for this. Someone's done some videos on it. I can't remember who exactly. Otherwise, I would endorse them right now. But suffice to say, they address the fact that in Mandalorian culture, strictly speaking, the helmet being on all the time, that's for wartime things. It's sort of a symbol of unity as a Mandalorian people. That's great. I like it. Wearing the helmet at all times, no matter what, that's sort of a zealot offshoot, and they address that possibility with the Children of the Watch, and that makes sense. I like it. You can move on from that.
Yeah.
It works out pretty well. Just don't remove the helmet casually, and you're doing great.
Alright. Let's move on from Star Wars before we talk about Star Wars all night, because I will do that.
Yeah, probably I will too, even though I'm not quite a diehard. They just made so many obvious mistakes I feel compelled to point it out, but that's quite possibly mean to people who don't give a shit about that. Well, hypothetically, we have mostly SP. I'm not sure we do have mostly SP fans.
Otherwise,
I think we have mostly people who know one or two of us, and they're all here.
Okay, alright, before we move on from Star Wars then, apparently I have been asked a question that I missed in the chat, and I will tell you the answer now. Dave. Which is the best of the latest 3 Star Wars films? Of the latest 3, my thoughts on which is the best, it kind of depends on what I'm looking for. But a lot of people say that The Phantom Menace is not very good. I disagree. I can see the criticisms, but...
Wait. The latest 3.
Yes, I don't count anything after Disney took over.
Oh. Carry on.
The Phantom Menace is enjoyable, in my view. I enjoyed it when I first watched it, and I could still go back and enjoy it now. In terms of epicness, I would say that my internet probably just cut out again.
That's fine. It's back.
In terms of epicness, I would say Revenge of the Sith has most of that, but it's a bit too CGI. There's too much CGI going on, and the dialogue gets a bit crappy. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, it wasn't directed at me, so I guess I shouldn't answer.
You can answer if you like.
Well, in my case, I do think The Force Awakens raids some potential. It's the only one I saw throughout, so I could be biased to that point. There are so many points they could have gone from there on to have made it spectacular, because I do feel it is superior to the prequel trilogy, not necessarily to the original 3. But
I can't give it being
I will
superior, but go on.
amend. I could be biased by how much I fucking hated Jar Jar Binks.
That's an interesting point. I can't give it being superior to any of the prequels, unfortunately, purely because Mr. Legend's Purest Badger over here cannot accept them not having the right Solo children.
Okay, I understand that, but we didn't really. Even in the books, the Solo children, I mean, Kylo could have been Jason.
He's cheap discount rip-off Jason.
Discount Jason. Okay, I'll grant that. And I will also note that I was furthermore biased because I also really deeply, profoundly hate prequels in general.
I don't mind prequels. I'm fine with them. I can see some people's criticisms of prequels. Well, there's one that I both get but also firmly disagree with, which is that, well, where's the tension? Because I know where this is going. I don't agree with that because I will reread books that I know the ending of a lot, and I still enjoy them.
Here's
I know
why
where it's
that
going.
works, Badger.
Mm-hmm.
You read those books and it works because it's consistent. The problem with the prequels is that 9 times, or at least 8 times out of 10, they are not consistent with what actually happens later.
That's a good point.
And that's why I really hate them, because they will not be consistent. It's like time travel. It doesn't work even in fiction, damn you!
I like prequels when you're looking at them and you go, oh, that's how they got there, and it does make sense. But yes, if it doesn't make sense, then they can get straight in the bin. Directly into the bin. Did I break the net again?
Right, we should probably bring this back to...
Yep, we should. Topic. What are we talking about?
SPs in general. We've gone over the rather questionable effort to add more classification subcategories when they can't even get the 3 basic ones right. Favorite SCPs, I think we touched upon that.
Yeah, we did. On the topic of that, though, let's just do a hypothetical. let's say that they do manage to use these new classification ideas to make things more coherent and more shit, let me Google another word for coherent. They managed to make them more coherent, and they add to the stories. That would be great. I would fully support that, and I hope that's what happens. But I don't know if it's going to. And I think it's more likely that it won't.
Yeah.
Nerdy, I will destroy you.
Let's say hypothetically Disney did an SCP. No, they wouldn't do that. They can't make money off of that. Now, when they somehow, by some terrifying means, buy the SCP Wiki, then they may. And hypothetical God help us all.
Oh! That's a topic. Have you heard anything about that Russian chap that was doing some legal shit?
Which Russian chap that's doing legal shit? I get the impression that's something of a national pastime in Russia.
He'd done some kind of Russian copyright to do with the SCP. Something, I think it was something to do with the logo and some other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas for everywhere else, it's public domain. Oh, it's Creative Commons, isn't it?
I hear about that. Simply say I don't approve.
Yeah, I was wondering if you'd heard anything, because I've been a little bit out of the loop.
Kind of feels like the entire of Russia is one big struggle to be big dick alpha dog.
Well, look at who's running the place.
Exactly. And they seem to have done a pretty good job in context on that marker. I mean, they haven't created a nuclear Cold War, well, post-apocalypse yet. Although that does seem kind of moot when we're living in one regardless. Increasingly.
But that's real world stuff. We don't want to get into that. That's a little bullshit.
Yeah, no, it's quite depressing. I fully agree.
Fantasy's much more fun.
Yes, and it reminds us, and this is important, that it can always be worse.
And it can be better as well.
Yes, it can. That's the sort of agency of being a sentient mortal.
Yes, indeed.
If you're in a place to make things better, you should. If you're not in a place to make things better, then well, at least you make things better for yourself. Like, that's basically the entire advice of the much maligned Peterson. And you can't make things better for the globe, at least clean your room, you'll be happier.
If he wants to come round and dust my shelves, then he's well.
No. It's all about what you do for yourself. It's your agency.
Well, my agency is saying that he could come and dust my shelves.
Well, then your agency is mocking your inability to do it yourself.
Well, I'm able to, I just don't want to.
Mine? Yes. And I fully sympathize. I mean, I could clean my workspace. I don't. I recognize I should. I recognize I could. But it scares me, and it's complex, and it's sheer chaos on shelves, and it's not really dusty per se, but they're bits of Herbert still on the desk because I can't bring myself to sweep them away, and that's really bad because it's shards of very thin broken glass that will one day surely embed themselves in my feet unless I clean them up properly, but I still haven't done it yet because Herbert. It was a game of don't starve together. How can I be so reckless?
I know the feels. What I think I will do after this stream, in order to do the old clean your room that Mr. Peterson recommends, is put my pants away.
It was just a game live stream, and I'm stuck in his stress test, and
It'll be all right, Director. Don't you worry. Everything will be fine.
yes, there's no point in crying over spilt milk or shattered dearest friends. It's going to work out. It's going to work out.
You'll be fine. They may be dead, but they will live on in your memory.
Indeed. I mean, Herbert lives on in the form of Wesley. Not the same, but he's adorable.
Now, a suggestion has been made to me that I'm going to refute immediately, because I know what the answer would be. Nerdy has suggested that someone should ask the turtle about the shelf issue. I know what the turtle would say. The turtle would say, clean them yourself, you lazy fuck.
Yes, because that would be the correct answer. I know it's not as simple as that in practice, but it's still the correct answer. Mind you, the challenge then is more accurately in finding the precise context of mindset and environment that gives you the energy and focus necessary to accomplish the task at hand.
Oh, someone asked me if I'm wearing pants, because I mentioned putting my pants away. No, they're on the chair in the other room, because I haven't put them away yet. By the way, Orla, the lip balm works very well, thank you.
Who's Donald Jackson?
Indeed. Tilt PI, coming this fall.
I'm just confused.
It's the Stargate
Wait
character.
a second, wasn't the characters in Stargate the sci-fi series? I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I do like Stargate. The problem I have with Stargate is when it started having several interlocking series, because you had SG-1 and Atlantis.
It fractured before it died.
And at that point, I got confused, and I couldn't keep up with it.
Stargate Atlantis was a bit...
But
Wasn't
SG-1
bad per
throughout,
se.
SG-1
but
throughout most of its
SG-1
thing was pretty good.
Yes. And mind you, even when that replaced MacGyver, it wasn't bad even then. But it just reminded me that Farscape was doomed.
Oh, Farscape.
Farscape was a very charming series, but I think they were getting too dark towards the end. And they were far too in love with the character of Scorpius.
I watched some of Farscape at the time it was on, and I don't remember much of what happened, because it was always on at an awkward time, and I didn't manage to keep up with it. So I would jump in at odd episodes, and there'd be that woman doing the boob thing, and I'd go, oh, this is nice, and then I'd go, what the fuck is going on with the rest of it? Oh, and then that guy slapped the guy with his tongue. Tongue slapping aside, though, I did like the ship.
What about Lex?
Oh.
Well, Lex. Apparently that hit a point on Badger. I take it that Lex made a distinct impression upon you, Badger.
I watched the first episode of Lex. And all the shower heads were penises. There was a disembodied android head quoting erotic literature.
Yeah, it was definitely a comedy option. Around. Again, it was actually the most promising show whenever they didn't get too existential and dark.
Oh, I should watch more of it at some point, but I couldn't get over the penis shower heads.
No, yeah, if you think that was bad, it got so much worse.
Right, sci-fi.
Stanley Ipkiss. No, wait, no, that wasn't the name. I was confusing Mask for it. But basically the same character, only more loathsome.
Right, sci-fi series. At the time I discovered Lex, I was going through... I'd found just a list of science fiction television series. Because I was trying to find something new to watch. And I found several in there, and one of them was Lex. I watched the first episode, and there were penis shower heads, and I couldn't continue taking it seriously at that point. Shortly after that, I discovered Firefly, and watched Firefly. And Firefly was excellent, so it's a bit brown coats for life, you know.
The most interesting softcore porn version of World War I've ever seen. That's actually a really good way to phrase it, Lord Mortal Gex, I must admit. The most interesting softcore porn version of Red Dwarf they've ever seen. Yeah. Yeah, that's basically Lex. Only more organic, you know, with the whole flesh insect ship thing. That was kind of,
It's a nice design ship, though.
No, not bad.
It's visually very interesting.
I was very torn between liking and hating Kai.
Which one's Kai?
The undead assassin, last of the Boon and G. It's very obnoxious, really.
I see. Alright, here's a question for you. Have you ever seen Blake's 7?
Why, yes, I have. I watched it lengthily, but again, talk about sort of predecessor series that failed in much the same way. They got way too dark towards the end, and it largely limited my ability to care.
My dad introduced me to that series, and he apparently went looking for it on DVD in the comedy section and couldn't find it. And then realised that it wasn't...
It's not a comedy.
Yeah, he then realised it wasn't meant to be a comedy.
No. It might be interpreted that way now, especially when you laugh at the special effects. But,
But the guy with the gun hand, I really enjoyed the guy with the gun hand.
I don't remember the guy with the gun hand.
He's sort of the antagonist of the first season or two. He's like the top lieutenant in the evil bad empire, and he wears lots of black leather and has a hand that is also a gun.
No, as long as it functions as a hand, it's not necessarily impractical.
I think it does, if I'm remembering correctly. I think it. If I'm remembering it correctly, it's quite a low budget gun hand, as in it's a leather glove with a metallic hole in the end of one of the fingers.
For the budget limitations, that works pretty well. Okay, just yes, take your nap, Wesley.
What are your thoughts on Firefly?
Well, I never really found the time for the original series, but I did watch the film and quite like the character. I especially liked the character of the not the protagonist, but the antagonist, who eventually came to realize that he was a duped tool of the regime and then set his agenda on bringing it down because he was ideologically driven, but was not completely divorced from reality, especially when he acknowledged that the utopia he was fighting for was one that didn't necessarily include him. But then he realized that the people trying to create a utopia were much worse than him, and realized, furthermore, that his targets were poorly chosen.
Yeah. Orla says the series is cool. I would have preferred it to continue in series form than go into a film, because there are things that that are very rapidly glossed over in the film that really could have done with being more thoroughly explored and more slowly in a series format, which was the original idea.
I assume part of that, well, I might hope at least, is how the hell are the Reavers sustainable?
I don't know. There is an episode in the series where you see a new Reaver essentially happen. Well, they do a lot of sex, so there's probably that. I don't know how they deal with the logistics of the rest of the process.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of raises a problem, because if they're completely addicted to generally murder and torture as a whole, that does present certain threats to population sustainability.
Yeah. The one in the series where you essentially see a new Reaver being created isn't a new Reaver in the form of one being born. It's a guy going insane.
Yeah, see, that's not sustainable. Even if you drive the entire planet mad, where most of them become Reavers, if they're spending most of their time murdering and torturing each other to death, which seems of high probability, then they don't seem likely to pose a threat to the galaxy as a whole.
No, I think that needed to be explored in more depth. Critical cripple.
No, Joss Whedon cannot recover because Joss Whedon drank too much of the poison and now he's a useless, insane nutter.
That was the question I was about to, and my answer is the same. No, he's fucked.
Oh, sorry. It wasn't targeted, so I felt bold enough to...
No, it's fine. That's you have essentially the same answer as me. He's fucked.
Yeah.
He's at it.
They multiply by basically torturing people to insanity. Look, what are the odds that any of them could recognize when some torture victim is tortured sufficiently insane as to be released from restraints? It means that they're not that competent. They can't be.
No.
There's more things you flesh out there, and it could work. It could work. Don't read the above arc.
Oh, no. Anyway, so moving on from that. I suspect that if it was explored more in the series, the Alliance government is involved in keeping the Reavers about. And I mean, further involved than they are in the film.
They would have to be able to, or have found some way to weaponize them, thus incentivizing them to maintain a useful population.
I would
because
guess
even
Mm.
Teehee, if they did just C-section victims,
Mhm.
which would be terribly sexist, you know. I mean, how could they have that in fiction? I mean, women being so cruelly exploited, very cruelly exploited indeed. Is it really plausible that Reavers could take care of a baby?
Probably not. But yeah, I suspect that where it was going was that the Reavers are continually topped up in terms of their numbers by the Alliance government in order to justify to their people there being them keeping a strong and stable military with which to
Yes,
repress the people.
that would make considerable sense.
And not only that, but also in order to demonize any opposition, you can then link any opposition to the insanity that causes Reavers to happen. It's a whole useful idiot scenario, I suspect.
Oh, yes. We're seeing that on a daily... That's wrong direction. In any case, yes. And furthermore, you present a framework by which they could topple the Alliance if they can make it clear that the Alliance has been producing the Reavers in the first place.
That's kind of where it ends up going in the film, but it could have done with being fleshed out much more in a series.
Yeah, the movie's situation creates a significant population of Reavers initially, although how they cooperate is also kind of a big question mark.
How they fly spaceships is a bit of a questionable thing. They have to be able to communicate with each other more than you see in the show and films.
There's a bit of discrepancy between being batshit insane yet also competent enough to manage interplanetary.
Yeah, they've got to be able to communicate more than you see in the film. I would suspect that in an in-universe perspective, when the only times you see them in the film is when they're in essentially sort of a battle frenzy state, and that outside of that they are capable of communication with each other. That would be my guess, because otherwise it really doesn't make sense that they could fly spaceships.
Yeah, that or you take a dog spawn approach to it, and their production is the product of. Well, let's say the females of their species are hardly recognizable as females. Just sort of flesh blobs that fill up a ship and then occasionally pump out new versions. This is all just attempting to fix the flawed laws of other IPs that we will never get the money nor credit for.
Yeah. Speaking of fixing things, that could be a topic for another stream or video at some point. Is maybe I'll do a whole talk about Reavers and stuff.
Oh, good. I'm glad to inspire. I'm needing to make a lot more canned content myself.
I'm
Previous mentioning of how
I'd have to
streams, although great fun and well tailored to me personally, also don't grow channels.
I'd have to do a lot more reading in order to come up with that.
Oh.
And, yeah, that's the trouble with it. It doesn't grow channels doing that. Fortunately for me,
schedule everything. They're driving back to
fortunately
editing
for me,
and content.
Fortunately for me, I'm not really looking to grow the channel in the sense that I don't mind if it does grow, but I'm not specifically chasing the numbers. So
I'm not a zealot. I'm not
saying you are.
Driven. I'm struggling with a lack of ambition in general.
I'm not saying you are, but I am saying
necessity.
that. I'm not saying that you are a zealot about it. What I am
I'm
saying
not feeling attacked. I'm just
is that as you make an income from it, you do need to do that a lot more than I do.
Well, yes.
Because if I was reliant on my channel for an income, I would.
Tiny budget. It's a itsy bitsy tiny petty budget. It's a bitsy bitty, and I hate cute.
Yeah, if I was to be reliant on my channel for income, I would definitely need to put out a lot more content, and yeah.
Yeah, and furthermore, it can be stream content. Although, weirdly enough, by the same stupid algorithm that mandates this, you could hypothetically you could just delete the record of the stream that you did and then re-upload it, and YouTube has no meaningful way of telling that it wasn't.
That was going to be
totally original canned content video.
That was going to be my my suggestion to get around that, is just do a stream, download stream, upload stream. Now you have video content.
I did contemplate that. It sounds like work.
It is work.
It sounds like it might be actually more work than just doing the occasional canned content video or Dr. Seuss read, because I'm doing those now, because it turns out that a lot of Dr. Seuss books, even before modern era, that have been deemed intolerably controversial. And that's just such insane bullshit.
Oh dear. But I'm of the view that history should be there to look at so you can see the things. But also, I'm of the view that when I looked into it, no, these books haven't been removed from any records or anything. The ones that have recently come up, it's just been that they're not publishing them anymore because they weren't making money out of them.
Yeah.
So they're already published. They're findable all over the place.
Look, I'm very disappointed with the descendants of Seuss. They seem to be very gullible.
Response
and
to
yes,
all
it does critical cripple, but I'm not going to interrupt this particular stream to go through the full details of it. Especially not at one.
What is it? No, never mind. But yeah, in response to Orla, yes, but TikTok can go fuck itself. Apart from the Wellerman thing, that was pretty good.
And so yes, I was pouting, but you got plenty of time to gloat over it later. Shut up.
Actually, no, TikTok's okay. There's some good stuff on TikTok. I just wish that it wasn't always. They emote too much. A lot of TikTokers. They emote a lot and they make a lot of eye contact, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Yes, and that reminds me of the latest indignity that Oral inflicted upon me by having me take part in something called a blind duet, which doesn't make any sense because there's no singing involved. I was geared up to sing, and it was just some foundation lackey testing my ability to survive 173. Which, of course, I could, because I was one of the pioneers of just blinking one eye out of a time. I mean, is that really so hard for people? Really?
I was watching. I saw the start of that, but I haven't seen all of it. But you may notice in the thumbnail, you are wearing the outfit you were wearing in that video.
Well, this is kind of a throwback. I mean, I haven't worn this Howie-style lab coat since I was exiled for a year.
You know that bit of the stream where you know there's more to talk about, but you can't make the topics come into your brain? I'm in that part now. Where you know, as soon as you get on to another topic, it'll flow nicely, but you just can't think of the next topic.
Well, we've been at this for an hour and 40 minutes, but so I can throw
Should we do a
The
little...
type of SCP
go on.
that you would most fear, that you would dread most to encounter.
I would dread most to encounter. I'm going to go with the problem that I have is the ones that I would dread most to encounter are some of the ones I find least compelling in terms of the writing.
Well, yes, because
Because
it makes sense, really.
It's
They're trying too hard often.
It's easy to write something that if you were to actually encounter it, it would be absolutely terrifying because there's no possible means of escape, there's no possible means of containment, and there's no possible way out of this scenario. It's very easy to write something like that, but it's not very easy to write it compellingly.
Well, there are ways to write it, but they also feel compelled to defend it at the same time, which really annoys me because there are hypotheses that work for containing a whole bunch of things. One of them includes nuking it from orbit until it's small enough to contain properly.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the SCPs really need that because their containment procedures are comically ineffectual, say, like with a flesh that hates, or anyone with a foundation just gleefully marks off a little territory, and even though it's painfully contagious, thinks, that'll do.
The lizard, what do we call it? The hard to kill lizard's an example of that, I would think. Well, you could just...
Well,
you could reduce
the secret of the unkillable lizard is that it has plot armor. There's no killing it, because whatever you do, some asshole will give it the ability to overcome it.
Yeah, you could nuke it like a lot, and then just put the remains in a small box that is very strong, and then bury that box in something else that's very strong, and then it wouldn't be able to reconstitute itself to a greater size.
Assuming, of course, it didn't just absorb nuclear powers and become French Godzilla.
Yeah, but you've got to have some limits on the things, otherwise you just... Oh, it's eaten the sun now. Okay.
The limit on the unkillable lizard is that you can't kill it, in which case the Foundation's policy is generally pretty solid to keep it in a tank where it can't regenerate. That's fine, but they also need to further complicate its biological functions. I was thinking some acid-resistant rods run through its physical body in various ways to lengthen the amount of time it takes to regenerate, even if the acid gets drained for whatever reason. This is established to work. That's how the containment protocols work. They can be refined based on the methods that work. Because they've already established that if you try to dispose of it in any way that would render it neutralized, it won't work. And honestly, the way they contain that is far more acceptable than the way they contain a lot of other things, say the ones that they keep feeding human children to.
Yep, I get you. I think they really need to rethink the containment procedures for some of those other ones. But I think in order to write it in a compelling way, I forgot where I was going with this line of thought. In order to write it in a compelling way, there needs to be enough threat to be worrying, but not so much that it's uncontainable.
Perfect. How many orcs do you think there are? Sorry, let's catch them on chat. I'm sorry, there are certain clones which I resent.
I'm catching up on the chat now, and
I think they've confused me for Izub.
how?
Izub has been infinitely cloned by the Aura Foundation. I have not, nor will I start to be. They don't have my DNA, they never will get my DNA. And I should note that even with the launch of the new show Stress Test, wherein I'm visibly at the mercy of releasing steam. They still have no access to my DNA or physical person in any way, shape, or form. It's purely psychological torture.
I've seen Ezub. I don't get how they can mistake you for Ezub.
They seem to have a different idea of how it works with this arc will be recycled of the stream. Never happens to me. Hypothetically, it does happen to unfortunate Ezub clone of some number that no one really keeps track of.
One says apparently some of the Ezub clones have escaped.
Apparently some Ezub clones have escaped. Oh, well, news to me. I wish them well. Unfortunately, their foundation will just pump out more.
Having, again, seen Ezub, I would suggest that the O'Hara Foundation ups its containment procedures.
They don't really care. As long as one or two are kept around for menial services, it's a non-issue. And what are the other Ezub clubs going to do out in steampunk Victorian London anyway?
That's a good point. So is the O'Hara Foundation stuck in sort of a timey loopy thing?
No. Look, time travel makes absolutely no hypothetical goddamn sense. I've been over this so many times. I know it's trite and painful to hear even now for some of you, but it's true. The O'Hara Foundation does not exist in a London that correlates with our own timeline in any way, shape, or form. It's a look.
Are we talking like a pocket dimension kind of thing?
Look, infinite parallel dimensions and realities. Infinite. That means infinite. That means at any given time there's a reality that is just like this one except for X. It's Rick and Morty-ish, basically, only with less cross-dimension interference.
I like Rick and Morty. I don't like the fan base.
Well, I don't need to care about the fan base. But the concept, if you're going with time travel, makes sense, like Sliders as well. It's the same concept, really. Infinite parallel realities, some of which might be almost entirely the same, except for the fact that you're a bad-tempered parrot.
I don't think I could handle being more repetitive than I am.
Well, look, bad-tempered parrot probably feels differently about that. We don't know, because we aren't messing with that reality, and it doesn't matter anyway, because everyone only exists in their own personal context in this given time regardless. So
I've encountered bad-tempered penguin.
Yes, there's probably... No, not just probably, there almost certainly is one of those as well.
No, there definitely is. I had a debate with bad-tempered penguin.
Okay, well, there's a parallel reality where you're bad-tempered penguin and they're bad-tempered badger.
Yeah, I think that's more complicated than we need.
Well, it's infinitely complicated, so it's more complicated than anyone can possibly process. But nevertheless, that makes sense if time travel is just going into a parallel reality that is the same sort of reality, but they're at that point in time. And even then, you'd have to do extensive study to determine that's that point in time that matches up with your point in time. The histories would be difficult to match perfectly, but if you don't really care about getting it precisely right, you'll have a tremendous advantage moving forward.
The thing with I think with time travel, to bring this full circle twice now.
It's fully impossible.
Yeah, to bring this discussion full circle twice now. There was talk of trying to solve Star Wars with time travel.
No.
And my thoughts on that are as follows. Star Wars has done perfectly well with almost no time travel. And I say almost because there has been the one time travel story that I think works well, which is something is frozen and comes out later. because
Okay.
it's technically time travel in the sense that there's something from a past era in the present, but it's also not, because it's still a thing moving linearly forwards in time.
Yes, if
It's
that's
just
time travel, then we're
frozen.
all time travelers, because we're all traveling through time at the rate of 1 second per second.
Exactly. They've had that in Star Wars, before Disney fucked everything up. Then they did the in quotes veil of the Force, and they were talking about using the in quotes veil of the Force to try to fix the fucking mess they made. And they're like going, yeah, but unless you do that and then somehow put a complete stopper on it and don't ever visit that thing ever again, then you just know it's going to completely fuck everything up at some point in the future.
Time travel does not make sense. It cannot fix anything. It can only complicate things to oblivion. And it's never, ever worked in fiction, even. And if it can't work in fiction, how will it work in reality? If you can't make it work when you control all aspects of reality, how can it work in reality where you never will?
Oh, wonderful. Mr. Flodran Sunderich is here. But yes, I agree on the time travel. That's
Endgame.
That's why Doctor Who's fucked.
Doctor Who started out fucked when it comes to time travel.
Mm-hmm.
It persisted on other merits.
It managed to do well for a while by having other fun things in it. Well, the premise of time travel can be fun, but if you try to have continuity, Doctor Who.
No, you add infinite parallel universes, it can still work even then, where no matter what timeline and what parallel universe you're in, you're trying to do the best you can in a bad situation. Okay, that works. Even for Doctor Who, that could resolve a hell of a lot. But when you try to say that these things are interconnected, no. The only consistent connection would be the Doctor traveling through the infinite parallel realities.
It's a bit of a mess, really.
It is if you try to insist upon there being some sort of overarching continuous timeline that doesn't hinge entirely upon the Doctor themselves. And even you can piss that right up the wall. Even then,
You have more than one Doctor.
well, in ways we've seen.
Anyway, so moving on from Doctor Who and time travel fuckery. The idea of fixing Star Wars with time travel, it's a bit of a non-starter, really, because in the process of fixing it, you fuck it up further. I think
the Doctors and they meet.
Yeah, I think the only way to
multiple Doctors are established already.
I think the only way to actually fix that is to just go, right, we're going to have a cut off at this point here, and all this stuff is now just this is non-canon, and we're going to go back to a continuity that actually fucking works.
But painting about Doctor Who was not any failure in continuity. It was the high drama and tonal whiplash that I was subjected to earlier in the revivification of the series, which I found keenly intolerable, especially in regards to Rose Bad Wolf and the infinite whinging of the formerly stoic Doctor.
Oh, no. I couldn't get into Matt Smith as the Doctor. They got rid of all the bits of the show I liked.
Pretty much, yes. Same. Cute sympathies.
They got rid of all the bits I liked. They got rid of Captain Jack. They got rid of they got rid of David Tennant.
I was lost before then, but I still sympathize with you.
Yeah, they got rid of. Torchwood was good. I enjoyed Torchwood a lot. Actually, that was like one of the highlights of my trip to Cardiff. Is I went to the entrance in Cardiff. I went to where the entrance of the Torchwood hub was, and I found a tribute wall to Ianto Jones. That was very nice.
I'm hate to say it, but we are 5 minutes from 2 hours, and I do need to be tending to other things.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up. Let's move on to the shilling phase, shall we?
Well, very well then. Let's see. The next important thing is for me. I don't have a link handy. Steam, you were here. This is your fiasco. You should post the link to your channel, I guess. In any case, due to certain tragic events previously referenced over the course of the stream, I am now obligated to show up for up to 2 hours of stress test, wherein real Miss Steam will play music, and I have to listen to it, and people will be able to pay to make me sing, and it's and they can pay even more to inflict. Hypothetically, it's influence both, but Steam's going to enjoy it. They're degenerate. Utterly degenerate.
Thank you, Dave. Miss Steam's link is now in the chat.
Oh. How kind. That's launching for the very first time tomorrow. Roughly the same time this did, I think.
Oh, excellent.
Oh boy.
What day is it tomorrow?
Wednesday.
Yes, it's Tuesday, isn't it? That's how weeks work. Okay, so tomorrow at roughly the same time as this, go over to... Is it on Miss Steam's channel?
Yes.
Go over to Miss Steam's channel and watch the thing that is making the director go...
It's a stress test.
Outstanding. Well, I may poke my snout in and have a little look at it. We'll see how we do.
It's very interactive.
All of... What am I talking about? Yeah, links are in the description. You can go down there and you can find links to Director of Arketer's various establishments. We've got... What do we got? Oh. I don't know how to view the description in this thing.
YouTube.com/AliasArketer. That's the SCP stream where I do kind of videos, mostly reading Seuss stories now. And of course, every Thursday, a live stream wherein I read SCP files. We discuss them for a bit if anyone remembers to do so. And then, ideally, someone pays me to just do theirs. Otherwise, I take the nearest, quickest suggestion at the end of one.
Well, Miss Steam says no, it's on yours, apparently.
Yeah, there's, of course, Director of Arketer Live, which every Saturday there's a live stream wherein I go through news articles and people are there and they test my patience in their own ways. And, of course, on every Friday and Monday is Side Quest, the Monday of which I run painfully under the tortured persona of Arcturus the Black Compass on the Gargamorskar live streams.
Yes, indeed. Everyone tune into the various thingy-doos and do the things that you are supposed to do in order to make them be promoted by the algorithms.
Yeah, well, that's on me. That's a painful reality I've come to realize. I have to fill out the kind of content. I hate to see my recorded visage on film and hearing my own voice.
I know the feeling. Now, yeah, down in the description you will find links to Director of Arketer on Twitter, Streamlabs, Minds, and YouTube. That's the links I've put in there. If you've got more links you want me to put up later, send them to me and I'll put them in the thing.
I mean, in my own head, I sound fairly dignified and refined and intelligent. In recordings, I sound like the bastard child of Crichton in Seinfeld.
I'm not saying nothing, but yeah, I know the feeling. I'm inside my own skull. I sound much deeper and more resonant than I do when I hear myself recorded. When I hear myself recorded, I sound tinny and shit.
I hate Seinfeld. Love Crichton though. I mean, if it was just Crichton, I can live with that. But it's Crichton Seinfeld.
Sir, surely that's impossible without at least one live chicken and a rabbi.
I mean, if it was just Crichton.
Crichton is spelled with a K. Anyway, let's wrap this up. So thank you very much for coming, everyone. My next thing will be whenever the fuck I decide to do it, because I am a mess right now. I do have a new SCP reading coming up when I actually manage to render it and everything. I would like to have some more of those done so I can put them out in sequence, but at the moment I've just got the one. So you can find me on YouTube, which you've already done, Twitter, Gab, Minds, MySpace, and sadly no longer Pornhub, because they did a verified accounts only thing. If you would like to come on and have a discussion with me, or a chat, or a fun thingamy-do, you can contact me on the Twitter, the Minds, the Gab, or the MySpace, or you can email me at badger@cock.li, which has now finally stopped being in Braille. I think that's about everything, isn't it?
Should be.
All right, let's do the fabulous outro. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for joining me, Director of Arketer. Here is the outro.
Let's see.